This is the California Liberty Project podcast.
Welcome back to California Liberty Project podcast. My name is Greg. I appreciate everyone being here with us on this brand new podcast. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to download and like the podcast. It's been great having you here with us on this journey so far. And today we've got some great guests. We're going to have a great conversation. I'm really looking forward to this one. I have with us here, I have Lillian Lopez and I've got A-Rod. A lot of you are going to be familiar with their work with LEXIT. So I want to thank them for coming on, for making time with us. I'm sorry we're not going live tonight. You know, we were talking about going live and whatnot, but I'm getting my YouTube. Everything's getting ready to go. We're getting that set up. So that'll be coming really soon. But in the meantime, we're going to start with a great audio podcast, a great discussion with these individuals, and I'm really looking forward to having them here with us tonight. So with that said, I'd love it if each of you could just briefly introduce yourselves and kind of say, you know, who you are, what you're about, where you're from, and what kind of drives you in this movement and with your work that you're doing with LEXIT.
Okay, so I guess I'll start. So my name's Lillian Lopez. I'm a parent. I am a mama bear. I am pretty much for the truth. I stand on the truth. And, you know, I just kind of got involved because my daughter attends a school here in Bakersfield, and there were a couple of things that were kind of hidden, you know, behind the scenes that they were going to get ready to start teaching, which is the LGBTQ plus curriculum and bullying system type thing. And so I didn't like the way they were putting it out there. And so I basically went to the school board and confronted them about them, brought it to their attention. It got enough attention to where the next board meeting, I had about little over 200 people show up. So that kind of spearheaded, started the Californians for School Choice, which is where parents have an option to opt out and get like a grant for their kids to go wherever they chose. Did that for about a year. And then now I'm here. I ended up running for school board here in Bakersfield. And even though I'm not in the position of the school board, I didn't win it. I feel like I won in another area, which is now being the chapter leader for LEXIT here in Kern County. Very
cool. Nice. Thank you, Lillian. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. So just a quick background on myself. I'm a national board member with LEXIT. I've been involved, my family's kind of been involved in activism for a lot of years. My uncle led the march with Cesar Chavez in 1966. We're from Delano, California. I was born in Delano, California. So from a young age, there's always been some sort of like activism going on in my family. My mom is kind of, you know, dinner talk was always telling me I'm conservative. We're a part of the church, you know. I was a part of the Young Republicans Club here. I kind of left that, and I noticed during Obama time, I kind of was like, you know. So that kind of what got me kind of my ears, you know, standing up. In 2019, I joined LEXIT. I just, Latinos for Trump, this kind of bigger page, told Jesse about me, said, hey, man, this guy's doing videos. You should really look into him. So I got a phone call from the founder of LEXIT, and he was just like, hey, bro, would you mind joining LEXIT? And I said, no. And he said, we're looking for Latinos that want to stand up and stand firm and put God first. And I said, cool, I'm down. And now it's led me on this crazy journey from meeting Trump, going to the White House, to now, you know, standing up at school board meetings and just being a voice to the voiceless and just standing up for conservative Latinos that are out there and giving people that are exiting the Democratic Party a safe haven, a place to kind of lay their home, because we're not biased. You know, we look at both sides, we call both sides out, and just being led by God first, drawing a line in the sand and not budging from it, you know?
Awesome. Yeah. So I got to ask you, you mentioned meeting Trump. You met President Trump?
Yes, we went to.
Okay. Whoa.
We went to the. They invited. Candace Owens, Blexit, put out a message to 2,000 minorities across the nation, influencers, could come to the White House. So we went out there. We met him right after he had COVID. he came out to the balcony and shot his mask off, and we were like, woo!
Nice.
And he spoke to, and the sad part about it, because at times I could be critical of Trump just because I think we should act with politicians in general. I think it's very important we do. But the sad part about it is when we went and we heard him speak and everything great that happening, the next day it was nothing. You didn't hear about him bringing any minorities. And you're not talking about regular minorities. You're talking about guys who are all tatted up, people from different walks of life. And it was just a great time because just to meet some of the influencers that you see now that are huge in the movement, to see everybody in their baby stages. And now you see them and you're like, wow, I remember him. I remember them there. I remember these people there. And just to see everybody gathered together on the North Lawn. And you were just like, wow. And, it was just an experience, going through Secret Service, being there. Larry Elder was there. Candace Owens was there. A bunch of politicians there. So it was a neat experience.
That's awesome. And that was with LEXIT in your capacity
we went with LEXIT, but LEXIT kind of overseed everything. But the founder of LEXIT, Jesse, has been to the White House like 7 times. He's been there when they signed bills and all that. So, we're always getting invited whenever we have some sort of Latino initiative or a bill that's going to be signed. Jesse's always invited to go on the Rose Garden for the signing and stuff like that.
Awesome. So we talked a little bit about LEXIT, obviously both of your involvement with that organization. Tell me a little or a lot about what LEXIT is all about and, what are the goals? Is it like an official membership organization, or is it kind of a loose coalition of different pods or groups around the country, around California? Or tell us about LEXIT. How does that work?
I think it's more of a movement, right, A-Rod? I mean, it's
kind of both.
Yeah.
If you want to actually have the title of a LEXIT, of course you have to be a member. But I think any Latino that has exited the Democratic Party, you are LEXIT, right? You're Latinos exiting the Democratic Party. So a lot of people will hashtag LEXIT, but not be an actual member. And yes, we do have chapters across the nation. I'm excited about this one because this one is due. We have a lot of conservative Latinos here, but we have chapters across the nation. We have thousands of people that have joined, and you only see very few of them because, those are the influencers. But there's so many boots on the ground. It's amazing, man.
Awesome. Yeah. And so your guys' chapter that you're heading up, give us a plug. What's the local chapter that you guys want to mention?
So it's a Kern County chapter. So it would be Bakersfield, California.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And so is the goal or is the hope to get a lot of the big population counties and even some of the moderate population counties to have a chapter, or is it just kind of more organic than that?
I would say to get everybody involved, maybe have some chapters in different places connected to Kern County. That would be kind of the goal, just because we definitely want it to spread. We want people to know that they have somewhere to go. Latinos have somewhere to go. They have somewhere to just kind of relate with other Latinos that are awake and aware to what's going on in our schools and in our community. And, it's just time for people to wake up. So, we would love to reach out even further.
Yeah, right. I think about
it's
it.
And as well, because to be honest, the reason why I feel like it's important here, because we have other people like Dolores Huerta who they don't have somebody else to have an option to combat her. You have one voice and they feel like once Dolores Huerta or Cesar Chavez put a stamp of approval on it, all of a sudden it's as good as gold. But we've been to these school board meetings with Lillian, and we're an opposing opinion against them where they'll go up there and be like, we're the Cesar Chavez movement. We stand for LGBTQ history being pushed in the schools. And we're like, hold on, we're a Latino movement as well. And we don't. So I think that here where you have the Queen Bee, they call her, right, Dolores Huerta, I think it's 100% the best place to go, because if we're going to attack somebody at their, I guess, at the root, it's going to be here, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Yeah, and it gets to the place where, Latinos are very loyal. They're very loyal. We're very, once we get behind something, we pretty much stick to it. We're about family, we have conservative values. And so then when you have somebody like Dolores Huerta who comes around, and she's very smart and very strategic about who she uses to speak in the boards. And it's all the young people, the younger generation. Yes. And so then you have the parents where they don't speak English at all. And so now they're just believing what these kids are telling them that Dolores Huerta is doing for them. And it's all a facade. It's for them to not only feed their need of wanting to be accepted in whatever it is that they're pushing. And then, Dolores Huerta on the side is making money, because I know she's making money. And so she manipulates and she causes these parents to believe whatever they want. The thing is, though, I mean, we did this forum during the campaign. We did like a little speaking engagement. It was like a panel of questions. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll go. I wasn't going to, but A-Rod convinced me. He's really good at convincing me. So I went.
Very persuasive, right?
He's very persuasive.
Yeah, we gotta get in their faces. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so
for sure.
So I went, and the questions it was so staged. It was so staged. It was so manipulated. Even the questions that they gave the parents to ask in Spanish, they were written down on a piece of paper. So for a fact that they were reading off of whatever they wanted them to ask, not necessarily what the parent wanted to ask.
Right.
And so even in one of the questions that we did, they asked about, sexual education, sex ed, would you allow, it was such a loaded question too, and it was very vague at the same time, because they didn't really give an explanation to what they were talking about as far as sex ed. Sex ed nowadays could include everything, right?
Sure.
So then I didn't put my, because they give you a yes and a no type card. And I didn't give one, because I felt like I wanted to explain a little bit more to why I wasn't answering that question in the manner that it was. And so they would even say stuff. A-Rod was funny anyways. I yelled out from
the top of the balcony. I said, what kind of loaded question is this?
Nice. Yeah.
So, once they gave me the opportunity, I said it. I said, I want to be able to know. It depends on the curriculum and what you're showing them. I want to be able to know as a parent, what is it that you're showing my kid?
Right.
So if I get to see that, then that's fine. And majority of the Spanish speaking parents that were there, because I could see them from where I was sitting, they were all nodding their heads. Yes.
Well, see, that's it. What Lillian just talked about right there is the key. See, the younger crowd is driven by emotion, right? Mm-hmm. Where the older crowd is the ones that are exiting the Democratic Party because they got skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
They understand, guess what? We have to parent, right? It's like the border, and I've talked about it before. It's when Democrats are like kids. They're like, oh, free for everybody. Where a lot of conservatives got to be the parent and say, no, you can't just come over. No, you can't do this. So when a lot of the older ones that are exiting the Democratic Party see that we're actually talking about issues, and that's what they don't want us to get into is issues. Because the minute they see, like Lillian say, the minute they start digging into certain issues, they're going to start, because they're the adults in the room. They sit there and go, literally, Lillian's sitting here, right? And you had some kid that called himself a socialist. And his answer was, what do you want to happen in the high schools? And this is a young Latino boy. His answer was this at a Dolores Huerta forum. We should get rid, and he's running against Lillian, mind you. We should get rid of all cops because we're sick and tired of all police officers in the schools putting their knees on our children's backs. And all the young kids in the crowd were like, hey! And I'm sitting there going,
they have their applause lines. It's just applause lines, right?
So I sat there and said, man, and all the parents are just sitting there playing with their kids. They're all coming from working the fields or whatever. And they're really good. That's one thing I do applaud them on. Is when we showed up, Dolores Huerta made them feel like they were going into their tia's, their abuelita's house. It was very home. It felt very comfortable. They had all these stuff, translators, and I was like, wow, we are super lacking on this big time, because they threw everything in the kitchen sink at them. But when they started to hear the issues, and I was thinking to myself, that's why it irritates me a lot of times. That's what we're trying to do at LEXIT, is educate the Latinos. Like she said, they're so trusting that if you were to go to Mexico right now, you would get a man sitting there listening to a priest and believing everything he says coming out of that Bible. But guess what? He doesn't know how to read himself. But he's so trusting because the guy has the same skin color as himself. So he'll literally sit there and go, I believe him. I have to believe him. He looks just like me. Not knowing that these people are manipulating and they're lying. So that's why hopefully we give it a platform where we can actually dig in to show them these issues, because we know Latinos are conservative by nature and they don't actually want to go along with what's being pushed right now.
Yeah. So have you noticed, I mean, is it a fair characterization that the Dolores Huerta, I'm going to call it machine, or whatever, but the Dolores Huerta political organization essentially they have kind of that stamp of approval. And if Dolores Huerta if they get that stamp of approval on local candidates or on local issues or at a school board meeting, is it fair to say that a lot of Latinos, and maybe those who don't speak English as their first language or what have you, a lot of them will say, oh yeah, we like what she did in the 60s or the 70s with Cesar Chavez and all that. So is there just a lot of that, like, yeah, we're going to go with what she says because she's got the brand in the Valley here?
Yeah,
is that
it absolutely is. It's all a part of, okay, she's known, she's part of the community. She helped out, the Cesar Chavez movement was very big. And it's funny because, the apples don't fall far from the tree. A-Rod and I found out through my mom having a discussion with her that my grandma actually marched with the Cesar Chavez movement back in the day. So she knew, Cesar Chavez and even A-Rod's uncle. And it was really funny because now A-Rod and I
That's amazing.
are kind of like on the same page as far as
you guys are linking arms together.
It's hilarious. It's like,
that's awesome.
That's God. That's the Lord.
That is God. And another thing too is, when you're the only voice out there, it's kind of like turning on your TV and all you got is channel 17. What are you going to watch all the time? So we want to make it. It's kind of like when the MAGA hat first came out. It was when you see somebody wear it, you were like, it was like seeing Bigfoot walking across the road, right? You were like, dude's got a MAGA hat on, right? So
right.
We want to normalize conservative Latinos. We don't want to be Dolores Huerta to be the only one. We want to have options, and we don't want to be the unicorn because, like we said, and I said on that podcast, they're not leaving our party going to yours. You guys are dinosaurs. They're leaving yours, coming to ours. Why?
Right.
Because a lot of Latinos are realizing when you can stick an issue, like if Dolores Huerta goes up there and doesn't really get into issues and says, hey, check it out. We have a stamp of approval for this lady, and you don't dig in. You look at the lady, you see the name Dolores Huerta, and you go, oh, this is cool. But when she went up there and said, we're for the LGBTQ history pushing the schools, a lot of Latinos backed up and said, well, what?
Time out. Yeah.
What? And then when you have a voice over here like Lillian saying, hey, you guys, if you don't agree with her, let's talk about it. Then they're going to go, hold on real quick. It's just giving them somewhere else to go, an option besides what they feel. But we have to target the issues that they're pushing and link them up to them, to showing them that they do not align with most Latinos,
Yeah. Let me ask you on that topic, almost kind of the broader cultural Marxism. I know some people don't like that term, but they've gone beyond just kind of socialist economics. And I don't know that. I'm not saying Cesar Chavez, he wasn't an official socialist, I don't think, but some of their economics is very different maybe from mine. I'm more of a free marketeer, but at any rate, I can even respect a debate with like a left-leaning economics person, right? Like a socialist. That's one thing. But I'm like, time out. You people now have gotten co-opted by cultural Marxists, and you're bringing in all of the, the radical sexual indoctrination stuff, all the things that, people label grooming and whatnot. So much of the stuff that's coming into the schools, radical, different alternative lifestyles, and a lot of the leftist causes. How did that get absorbed in with like a farm worker movement or what have you? Or even protectionist economics, or just unionizing and trying to get better conditions for the working, people out in the fields. Well, how did that get brought in?
I think,
you know what I mean?
Well, from what my mom tells me, she says that she remembers because we lived in Delano. We all lived in Delano at the time, but she was in the 60s. She remembers it being about 8, 9. And she says, I remember marching and it was like authentic. It was grassroots. She said, all of a sudden I see these men showing up with briefcases after a while, and things started changing, right? So I think what ended up happening was at the base of it, I think it was in the beginning, it was authentic. And I think like anything else, your white liberal or Marxist, whatever, saw an
carpetbaggers.
Exactly. Saw an agenda and took advantage of it. And I'll be honest with you. It's sad to say the same tactic used today. All they got to do is get up there, play Despacito. And because a lot of Latinos are uneducated, they're like, and I always tell this side note real quick before we get back to that. I pisses me off because I hate to play their game, because a lot of conservatives always say, you know what? We're not pandering. We want to educate. But sometimes I wish Republicans would pander and just get a Latino that's all tatted up and just put them on the stage, and then they'll be like, hey, look at that guy. And then run over too, right? I wish they would.
Right.
They're trying to, be authentic. But going back to it, I think that at the core of it, Latinos never had a seat at the table. The minute they get a seat at the table, I think they were stringed along like a carrot, and end up money got involved. And I think that after a while, like anything else, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I think that an agenda came in, and people like Dolores Huerta sold out the Latino community for all of these social programs. And now I think she just sits back saying, give me the check, push whatever, give me the check, push whatever. And that's what ends up going on, because they're so disconnected from conservative, everyday Latinos. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they don't ever, like, you don't really see Dolores Huerta at a board meeting. You might see her like maybe once in a great while she'll come out and talk about something, but majority of the time she has her minions come out and do whatever her bidding is. Right?
Her capos or whatever, her
and
generals.
I think what it is too for a lot of Latinos, and I'm gonna, because I grew up, my family, majority of them were all Democrat. And so my dad would always tell me, oh yeah, we're Democrat. But I think what it is that they misunderstand what it means to follow what God calls us to be, right? Like they don't really, I think we don't really look into, okay, what are God's standards and what does he say? Like, what is his character? And so then when we think of love, like as far as the LGBTQ plus, we think, oh, okay, well, we have to love everybody. And that means that we have to just embrace and tolerate and take whatever it is that's coming at us, right?
Right.
Because that's what Jesus calls us to do. And he calls us to love everybody. And that's not what that's about. And I think that was something that I grew up in with my family, because we have a nephew that is, living that lifestyle right now. And I don't hate him. I don't think anything less of him. I love him to the core of his being, because he's my nephew, right?
Right.
But when it comes down biblically, like the values and our morals and what we need to follow, we know what's right. And I think that's what kind of happens to a lot of Latinos families. They're like, well, if we just mind our own business and we really don't say anything, everything will be fine. It's that not confronting, pretending like, still pretending like the elephant's not in the room. And so then I think Dolores Huerta really, I believe she tagged on that. And she fed that into what her movement, because what it is that I think looking back, we've talked to people who have actually been with Dolores Huerta during the time of the Cesar Chavez movement. Right. And a lot of them that I've talked to, they'll say, oh, she's always been that way. She just didn't really push her agenda until after Cesar Chavez passed away. That's when she kind of like her true colors came out.
Oh, like she was always like farther left. Is that what they were implying? Like with all this other stuff, because all the other stuff has come in now, and I'm like, whoa, that's not what Cesar Chavez was even about,
right?
All this other leftist stuff,
right?
Well, a lot of it's they put the thing about Latinos, and that's what we try to educate them is we always say, it's a line we always use: don't make a decision based off the color of your skin. And what we mean by that is they tug at the heartstring of minorities, saying, guess what? These white people, rich, bad, poor, you guys, right? But deep down inside, a lot of Latinos are like, no, get off me. Hold on real quick. I want to work hard. I came to this country so I could have better than what I had before. Real quick, I'm going to give a story. My cousin's grandpa, right? On my cousin's side, his grandpa was not related to me. In Shafter, they own the first, and I think still active today, farm labor camp. They own it, Epifino, Llanos, right? They still manage it. It's right there on Shafter. You make a right. It's been there for years. And my cousin, who was a Marine Corps veteran, he was telling me a story not too long ago, and he was kind of crying when he told me about his grandpa, because his grandpa and our grandpa buried at the same place. And he said, if you go there right now, there's an American flag hanging there. And I said, really? And he spoke Spanish. I remember him as a kid being there. And he goes, because my grandpa said, Mexico didn't give me this. America did. Because over there, I tried to do this and they didn't give it to me. And that's the problem, is very few people see outside of their own skin colors. Because when they get here, they look and they see the white person, they say, and they get fed all these things like, look at, these people stole your land. Guess what? We should take from them and give to you. And they're like, hell yeah, right? A lot of the younger ones are because they don't know the history.
Right.
And they don't see the years of manipulation. After a while, people, and I'm sure you see this all the time, a lot of my minorities that are older, they're like, yeah, it's all this. It's all this. I'm sick of politics. Because after what, they know the game. They kind of tell you the game.
Yeah.
It's where when you talk to old school political veteran, they go, yeah, I guarantee you they're going to do this later. And like, how do you know? Because it's an old tactic. And I think that's why the older crowds are leaving. But I think using the skin color, tugging at the heartstrings, pulling at them, saying, look at the evil white man is actually holding you down is a big part of what we're trying to get them away from.
Right.
And then also there's that cultural piece. It's really interesting. Right. Lillian mentioned that in her story growing up, it was, oh, honey, we're Democrats. Right. Like that's the family. And I love the family culture. I love the family tradition. It's almost like an ethnicity, a religion, like a people, like we're Democrats. Mm-hmm. And it's really funny because I think that is wrapped up into so much of this like identity politics, as they say, right? Well, it's if you're Latino or if you're Black in this country, especially if you're Black. I mean, it's been 92%, I think, in terms of presidential elections of African Americans that tend to vote Democrat. And it just becomes like a thing culturally, like since the 60s, since LBJ in the wake of JFK, it's just, we're Black, we're a Black family. That's part of our identity. And of course, I'm not speaking for anyone in particular, but I think the same thing maybe got wrapped in with a lot of Latino families. We're Democrats, we come from that tradition, JFK, and the rights of workers and such. And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to embracing your culture, your heritage, and we're this, and I get that.
Well,
I understand that.
We have to remember, we have to look at it now. The culture coming into the generation that we're in now has changed so much. The Democrats that were back in the day during JFK are not anything to how we are now.
No.
And it's changed so much. It's shifted so much. And I think that is where I want to bring in the knowledge and the education of saying, Democrats are not the same as they were before. And that's why I say that Latinos are very, very loyal. They're loyal because we stick to what we stick to because it's family. It's what our family says, we're together. But that is where I kind of want to open the door to conversations of saying, I had an opportunity when the Kern County Fair was running to go and, kind of work a booth, for the Republicans and the Republican women's thing. And I got an opportunity to talk to a family there, a Spanish speaking husband and wife. And we, my friend, she had approached them, gave them one of my cards and, because I was running for school board. And I just started to ask them, hey, do you guys know who Dolores Huerta is? And they were like, oh, yeah. We see her on, we know who she is. Yeah. And I go, okay, well, I want to I hope I don't offend you. I said, by telling you this, but she's not for our people. And they were like, she's not? And I'm like, yeah, she's not. I said, you want to know why? So I started to just kind of let them know what she was pushing and how she's been coming to the board meetings and doing all these things. And they were completely shocked. And they were just like, wow, thank you for letting us know that because we thought that she was for us this whole time. And I go, no, I said, and the only way that you're going to find out is by going to the board meetings.
Yes, and by thinking critically too as an individual, and that's kind of where I was going with the comments on culture. Having like the way we vote getting wrapped in with our culture. Right. It's like no. You don't have to be a Republican if you're Latino or if you're white or whatever. You don't have to be a Democrat. Just think for yourself.
Yeah.
Question, right? Yes, like A-Rod was saying, just showing that there's an option. It isn't just we're Latino, so we go with Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta. We're in that line. No, you think for yourself. You might disagree.
Well, even though, and I talked about it on Terry Maxwell's show, okay, we're going to go pre-Kanye making all these weird remarks, right? We're going to go like Kanye before 2 weeks
let's leave that.
We're going to go Kanye 2 weeks ago. When he first when he first came out and he said, just to be able to have our own thought process, that's what we fought for. I remember going to a school board meeting, the same school board meeting that Lillian was talking about, didn't know that Cesar Chavez's niece was there. Didn't know anything. I got to speak right before her, right?
Yeah.
Ended up going out there, and then when I went up there and I said, back then in the 60s, we were fighting for the color of our skin, right? Being able to have a bathroom break, right? Being able to be equal counterparts to some of the people that we're working with. now we're fighting for an ideology, because the minute me as a Latino steps out of the box and says, hey, I don't want to vote Democrat, they're like, shame, you're a traitor to your race. So it's no longer about the color of my skin, because they're not sticking with me because of that. It's actually an ideology because I broke outside the box, right? The Democratic plantation or whatever. So now we're fighting an ideology. We're not fighting about skin color anymore. And I think that's what a lot of Latinos, even the younger crowd, I'm noticing, because LEXIT, this is one thing about LEXIT where I do pride ourselves, because we know a lot of conservative moves out there for Turning Point, to everybody that we've been along with. We're the only movement I see on this national stage where actual culture actually acknowledges us. And we're not talking about conservative culture. We're talking about liberal culture, because they see us in them as well. And not so much the liberal programs or anything like that, just as the culture, being like, hey, this guy looks like my primo. He looks like my cousin. He talks like them.
Sure.
He works. He's a construction worker. He does this. He does all these things. So they can identify this. We might disagree on some things, but we ultimately, at the end of the day, are a lot alike. So going back to Dolores Huerta, it's like she said, people think that she's going to these school board meetings passing out tamales. She's passing out condoms to the little kids. You know what I mean? Like, she's going out there being like a radical, and it's crazy. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually showcasing that, and you're spot on. I think it's identity politics. It's assuming that the minute they see me, they're like we said, we don't want to be the unicorn in the room no more. We want to say, look, at 50% are actually conservative Latinos, and we're here. Here we are. And that's true. This is what it is now. Right.
And so let me ask you then, we've talked about a lot about the Dolores Huerta movement and kind of her machine, as I'm calling it. I don't know if people realize, like here in California's Central Valley, which encompasses a lot of counties, from Bakersfield all the way up to, if you count Sacramento, all the way up to Chico. But there is a large Latino Democrat presence. And I would say that our Valley Democrats are very different than the coastal elite Democrats. And I use elite in scare tactics because I don't consider them elites, but kind of more of the rich, effete, liberal, the leftist Democrats of the coast, the radicals in the Bay Area. It's a very different thing. Like we've been talking about, this Dolores Huerta movement coming out of Cesar Chavez. There's almost like more built in, you would think, moderation. And so the Valley Democrat Party is a very different thing. But Dolores Huerta, my understanding is they're still running candidates, they're sponsoring candidates, and they're not all Latino. I mean, a lot of these are like new, young, up-and-coming leftist candidates, whether it's city council, school boards, right? I mean, it's a big machine, right? They have their tentacles out, and they're recruiting people in, and they're going far beyond just farm worker rights or labor disputes. They're going out into, as we've been discussing, leftist politics, I think, in general, recruiting for the Democrat Party. Right?
They're going into like redistricting, getting rid of charter schools. They're coming in full force, trying to pretty much take away anything, any type of opportunity that we have. It's disheartening because, my daughter, she attends the BCSD district, and
that's Bakersfield City Schools. Right.
And so that is originally where I wanted to run. I wanted to run in that district because I didn't agree with the board members that were on that board. And very liberal thinking, very free thinking, really so much into the, let's recognize this on this month, indigenous people, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's disheartening because the person that replaced the one person that we were trying to get out of there is another liberal and is much younger. And we're planning on taking our daughter out of, the BCSD district. She'll be coming over here to the Fruitvale district next year. I don't know how it's going to be even over here. I guess I'll find out as she goes along and see what kind of stuff they're teaching there. I know that my journey isn't completely done yet. There's a lot of things but I feel like with LEXIT, it's a better opportunity I have the opportunity to offer alternatives to just the stuff that they're putting out there, to go to psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors and stuff. And I want to really, really, really utilize the ministries that we have here in Kern County in some of the churches, especially our church, Assemblies of God, which is Canyon Hills. And so anyways, it's sad because, you know, a lot of these families really don't know. And if you're not talking to them and you're not really going out there and being, you know, aggressive in the sense of just being out there and talking to them, they're never going to know. They're going to continue to follow along, all because it's easy. I mean, I used to be one of those parents. Oh, okay, just let the school take care of it. They'll be fine.
Right.
They know what they're doing. You know, that was kind of, you know, for me, a very long time. And then once they came in and they pushed in that bullying system, it was like, okay, wait a minute. But if you're wanting to side with just a very small amount, a majority of kids who are dealing with this type of identity issues, what are you going to do when these same kids start bullying my child for being a Christian and not believing in the same thing that you believe in? How are you going to protect her and all these other kids? And so that's kind of where I felt like the scale wasn't balanced right.
Yeah.
And it needed to be. So I thought, okay, well, then maybe this is it. I need to just go over there and let them know how I feel and see what happens, you know? And so now this is it.
Well, you were talking about kind of them broadening the horizon. Kind of, you know, it's funny because I was just thinking about it right now. The same way Latinos are I won't say traditional. The same way Latinos are loyal to their to people or just loyal to the Latino community in general. I feel like that is the reason why the Democratic Party uses people like Dolores Huerta, because it's like they're token Latino, but they also play into the white guilt, which is crazy to me. Which is crazy to me because I'm like here to say, okay, look at white people. You don't have to feel guilty about anything. We don't hold you responsible, the majority of us. Just the people that do, guess what? They're the true racists. Let me tell you right now, the most racist people I've ever met in my life are minority community. Latino dads, for the most part, can't stand black men. Do not bring a black man home. Latino community, for the most part, we can't stand cracker white people. The black dudes I've been around, cracker this, cracker that. Man, let me tell you, I'm going to say it. People get mad when I say that, but I'm just being the real dude in the room. The most racist people I've ever met are the minority community. And stop. It's the white guilt. So this is what they do. They know that people have white guilt. The Democratic Party's smart, right? So they see the white guilt, right? It's like, okay, well, we even though we may not agree with it, but we're going to feel sorry for because this is what we're taught. So let's grab the token Latino. Then you have little Dolores Huerta sitting there with her tamales, and she shows up, and everybody's like, oh, and it's like, oh, look at her, poor her. Let's just go ahead and panic her. So then everybody's like, okay, we're going to jump. And then, okay, I have a candidate I would really love. Well, we're going to back him up. And everybody's throwing money at it. And it kind of, because it's like they found something and said, okay, we could use you for more. The Democratic Party said, we can use you for more than just a farm worker. We could actually use you for the vote now. Dang, you guys are a bunch, you guys. So we're going to take you to go out there and grab that vote, and then go grab that vote, and then that vote, and that's what they're doing. That's
they can package their leftism. They can almost co-opt someone like a Dolores Huerta, like a Trojan horse. Right. They bring in the cultural Marxism. And all of a sudden people are like, wait. Right. I thought we were just talking about better conditions for farm workers in 105-degree heat in Delano. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now, what am I talking? What is this? There's a dude in my daughter's bathroom at junior high? Time out here.
Think about that.
We didn't sign up for this.
Her quote, I quote, because Lillian was right there. The Dolores Huerta Foundation, Cesar Chavez Foundation, backs up LGBTQ history to be pushed in the schools. The nerve of this woman to say that the majority of Latinos actually accept that is a bold-faced lie. It's lying.
Insulting.
It's insulting. The community does not back that up. I got friends at work, because I work for the city of Bakersfield. I got friends that are not Christians. They don't serve God like that. They're not political like that. And they're saying the only thing that gets me moving is to think that they would have another man sitting in a restroom with my daughter. To hell with that. That is literally they do not believe in this at all. I'm sorry. It disconnects any of that stuff. So when she says stuff like that, it couldn't be farther from the truth. But it's just like you said, they're using them and they're pushing an agenda and they're throwing money at it. So now at this point, it's a machine, but it's a machine driven by money, greed, envy, all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and they have, like I say tentacles, but they have their arms and their hands and everything, almost literally. So like even a week ago, I know they were still counting some of these assembly and Senate races here in California, that's a whole other top. That's a
Right.
freaking joke. A month later, we're still counting. And so there was this call out about a week ago. And Lillian, you might have been on this group text as well, but they were saying, "Hey, come on down to the county Republican headquarters."
Right.
David Shepard running in
Right.
this, I forget the number of the Senate district. David Shepard's running against Melissa Hurtado, the incumbent.
Right.
And it's incredible because hundreds, let's see, what is it? Like about 900,000 people are represented in this Senate district, right? Give or take, like all Senate districts. And it comes down to 12 votes. 12 votes are separating David Shepard from the incumbent Melissa Hurtado.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Maybe that's a fantastic coincidence, whatever. But then they need to bring people down to cure the ballots, right? To go say, "Hey, your signature's off here. Can you attest that this is you?" Or however you cure a ballot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they're sending people out, both Republicans and Democrats from Dolores Huerta's organization. They're sending people out throughout the city or throughout this district, and they're knocking on doors and they're saying, "Hey, we really need you to like vote, or cure your ballot." And God only knows what happens when they get to the house in someone's living
ballot
room.
harvesting to me, right?
It's ballot harvesting.
Sure
I'm not saying it's illegal. I'm not making any accusations, but there were reports of people showing up at houses and they're like, "Yeah, like 5 people have knocked on my door already, to try to get me to do this." And Dolores Huerta's people, they were already here. They're gone. So how do you think that vote turned out? As of right now, I think you know which way it went,
Right.
because which side is better at the ground to ground, just hand to hand combat on the ground, ballot harvesting and whatnot. You know which way it's going to go,
100%.
right? And I think right now it is Melissa Hurtado on top by like 44 votes or something. I don't know what happened, but
I kind of, I know that we're talking about, Dolores Huerta, but I think it's fair to say that, the Republican side is a little sneaky in that area too. So, we know we got some right.
Oh, for sure.
There. And, in regards to Kern County, I did definitely open my eyes to a lot of the, political games that are played here in Kern County. And
there's a machine too. Go ahead.
Too. Absolutely.
Yep.
And, that particular machine, we all know who it is. And, it's all about, it was sad for me because here I am, a mom, obviously concerned for my daughter's well-being, my littlest one, when she's in school, and other moms that I've talked to that are fed up, before I was even going to do any of this campaigning or whatever it was that I got involved with, I wanted to be part of Moms for Liberty because I had seen what they were doing in Florida, and I wanted to bring that here to Bakersfield, to Kern County. And it just really upset me because, we're going into this thing where it's not about the parents. It's all about status. It's about being comfortable in their Seven Oaks Club. They want the credit without doing the hard work. They had sent me a certain group here in Bakersfield. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus because I'm all about integrity. And so let's just say, I know you guys know who I'm talking about. And this certain group, would send emails to me saying, "Oh, show up to this board meeting and participate and then come back and report back and let us know what happened." And then as time went on and I started to visit this group a couple of times and even get involved with the campaigning, I was like, "Oh, okay, I see how this works. You guys are just about status and let me get the credit for everybody else." And I believe in giving the credit where the credit's due. And it's sad because now, with my campaign run, when I ran, I went in it with the heart of, okay, I'm a parent. I'm going to fight for the parents out there. I'm going to fight for the students that are not being heard. I'm going to fight against the ideologies, the CRT, whatever it is that, we can push back on because I don't want that affecting my daughter. And then as soon as I got in, this machine here in Bakersfield, mind you, had met me 3 months prior to even signing up to run for school board, because I had originally also thought of running for city council. And so then from there, I just, I felt, okay, well, you know what? Maybe this will be the stepping stone to get to, city council one day.
Sure.
And so then as I'm there having this interview with this woman, she asked me all these questions. And just because she didn't see the dollar signs behind my name and I was just a mom who was coming at this in that way, she took a pass on me, right? But because I think it was probably because I always tell everybody this, and I think it's garlic to vampires who don't like to hear it. I just don't compromise. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to compromise. I believe we need to stand for what's right and what's true. And I told her that. I said that. I'm not willing to compromise. I don't rub shoulders with people and I don't do favors for anybody.
Right.
I'm here to stand for truth and to stand and represent the parents and the kids. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm running. And when I said that, it just kind of, I think to a certain extent, I think it scared her because in other words, I was telling her, I'm not going to be puppeted by you. I know how this works with you, even though I didn't know at the time that that's exactly what she does here in Kern County.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's sad because it's not just the left. It's also, this other side too. And so then you have good, I'm not saying that I'm the best of the best or I'm holier than thou, but you have good people with good intentions running for what's right. And then you have these other people who have money in places or recognized for whatever reason who come and sabotage what we're actually trying to do. And that's where I felt like, okay, well, that really pissed me off because it was like, okay, fine. You want to put whoever you want there because you want to puppet them and tell them what to do. And I feel like that's exactly what happened here in Kern County.
Yeah, and to a large extent, political parties, they tend to soil everything they touch, right? They corrupt everything they touch. The founding fathers of this country told us that would happen. They said, don't get into factions. I mean, Washington, right, in his farewell address, I believe Madison, many of those guys said, don't get into these parties or factions, as they called them. Mm-hmm. It's going to ruin everything. And so what it turns into is this tribalistic team game where it's like, oh, yeah, we need to triangulate or we need to think how this will be perceived. You saw it even at the national level with what Mitch McConnell did, by funding certain candidates and
it's
not funding
like
others.
Everybody gave this email and it went out and they said, okay, look, we're going to back the ones that are going to do exactly what we say. Mm-hmm. And the ones that don't, we're going to run somebody against them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that's what they did across the thing. And I think in the bigger picture of this, I think they made a big mistake by not getting Lillian. And this is what, and this is a model we use at LEXIT and why we became so big is if they don't want us to have a seat at the table, we're going to make our table so big, they're going to come to us. And that's what we're going to do here at LEXIT. I don't think they understand the mistake they made. And I'm not saying, oh, you should have picked Lee right there. I don't think they understood the mistake they made by having two candidates run and saying, you know what, this could be the future and this is not. They literally played a gap. I'm mark my words, bro. Write this down because in the next 10 years, you're going to see it change.
Isabella,
in the next 10 years, LEXIT will have the majority of the push in Kern County, and people that put godly and that old guard, the old generation is not going to have the amount of pull, the amount of persuasion, the amount of I would say control like they think they do. And they made a mistake by not even lending an ear and having that conversation, a huge mistake. If they don't catch the drift that most Latinos are coming over, and why wouldn't you want to connect with them instead of elbowing them out? You made a huge mistake because we are conservative and we want to have conversations with everybody, but we're seeing the way this game is being played and we're real people and we don't like it either, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's got to be another off-ramp. There's got to be another choice for an entire demographic group of Americans, of people here, right? And the whole thing is just because of your ethnicity or where your parents are from or the language maybe your grandparents spoke, that does not control what your thoughts are. That doesn't control how you understand your relationship to the Constitution or yourself as an American, right? The whole idea is crazy to think, but, even at the highest levels, Biden comes out and says, hey, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Right.
Famously, he said that, right?
That's
in the
crazy.
last campaign.
Right.
It's insane. I mean, it's blatantly racist, right? It's like the definition of racism.
This is the sad part about it. And this is why, this is the way the minority community thinks. You would think that after he said something like that, right? You would think the next voting exit, like the next numbers you would see them decline, right? And you're like, and then when you see them stay almost the same with some minority groups, it's because people don't understand. They hate us, the conservative movement, more than they hate Biden. The Democratic Party has done such a huge number on them so bad that they look at us, they look at the Democratic people and they say, look, I don't like what he's saying, but I'd rather pick the racist guy that I think I know than the racist one I don't know. And that is the problem with the Republican Party. It hasn't done its job trying to relate the message that we are the home for the conservative movement. And I always say all the time, they go, well, they're disconnected. No, I don't want to hear that crap no more. It's not that they're disconnected. They just don't want to be connected. They don't want, because the thing about the Republican Party, the conservative movement, this is their biggest issue, is they rather lose than lose power. Because I believe at the top, it's this fake game of tug of war where you're tugging, they're tugging, but really if somebody let go, they'll just stand there and go, what do I do? Because they really aren't going to follow the clip. They just want to make it look really good to where we buy in. And we're like, ooh, if we pull harder with them, we'll win. But they're two, like they say, two wings of the same bird. And I've been down to D.C. I did a private tour of Kevin McCarthy's office, went underneath the ground, did all the tour and the whole thing in 2018. Bro, check this out. When I got done, he had an intern. I'm going to say this, and I don't know if she'll ever listen to this, but he had an intern. She was 17 years old. And I remember after we did the whole tour and everything, we went to his office, took pictures, was like, woo. And she's just not thinking. She's a young girl. And I said, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? And she goes, huh? Because there's a lot of people around and we're done with the tour. And she goes, I don't know that they're all friends. Like they fight on TV, but then they all have dinner together. And then she looks at me and realizes that she probably shouldn't have said what she said. And I looked at her and I went, yeah, that's exactly what. But that was at 18. I wasn't as involved. Now looking back on it, I told my wife, remember what she said? And she goes, oh yeah. And I said, she's right. Because that's what it seems like they're doing, right?
Right. It's about party loyalty. It's about one person's ambition. Right. I want to be the leader of this chamber. I want to be the majority leader, right? And we don't, when you believe in principles, when you're fighting on the ground, when we're just fighting to stay afloat in California, you don't give a damn about that. Right. There's a lot of us who say we want to see the Freedom Caucus or bring back the Liberty Caucus and actually be a caucus. In other words, just say, Mr. McCarthy, Speaker McCarthy, hypothetically, we're not going along with that. We're going to vote as a block. You only have 222 Republicans, but we want things defunded. We don't want Ukraine funded. We don't want this happening. We don't want that happening. Don't give me the omnibus spending crap anymore. Vote as a block. Mm-hmm. Be true to your principles. Be true to the Constitution. The hell with the party unity. We need to win. I want to be the leader. I want to be the majority whip. The hell with that. They get so into that when they're in DC, right? And then they all go out to dinner together, like you're saying, A-Rod. For the cameras, they're all doing like the pro wrestling or Geraldo Rivera. They're smashing each other on the head with chairs and stuff, right? It's great TV. But then at the end of the day, they're like, they have a gentleman's or gentlewoman's agreement on how things will actually work.
It's kind of like the Civil War. It's like there was actually structure to the battle, right? Instead of everybody just going, like they would stand there and everybody look at fire and then everybody would drop. It was just like a certain things to battle. So we actually have a personal friend, an actual personal friend we can contact. Actually, she just invited us down to DC for her inauguration, Anna Paulina, and she just joined the Freedom Caucus. So she is a good friend. Me and Jess, we're going to go down there. We have a lot going on. We decided today that we're not because tickets are like $1,000 a ticket to go down there in the third. But she did reach out to the invitation, asked us to go down there. She's a good friend of ours, an actual personal friend. She's been on with LEXIT. She's from Santa Ana. She's from California, and she moved there. But she's a good friend of ours. Like I said, we've been with her plenty of times, and she's a part of the Freedom Caucus. And I hope that she can make a change. She's somebody that we feel that is authentic, and she's not a lightweight, and will be in people's ear, standing up for what is right. And, I think that's what it comes down to. Another thing I want to get down to, and we were talking about it before, and I just thought about it right now, is legislation.
Yeah.
We don't understand. Me and Lillian were just talking about this the other day. What happened in my son's sixth grade restroom, right? They had the tampon dispenser, right? That was right there, right? Okay. So my son walks in and he's looking at it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, Dad. And he sends me a picture and he's like, what's this? And I'm like, what the? We get on the phone. We're talking to the superintendent of city schools. We're talking to the superintendent of the county. I'm on the phone all morning long. And believe me, these women spend an hour on the phone with me each. And at the end of the conversations, they were like, 100%. I love what you do. If anybody's going to make a change, it's your guys' group, let me tell you. But you're a little late. It's already into legislation. It's already been signed. It's signed, sealed, delivered. So after that, you realize how important legislation is. When somebody comes back months later and adds on, right, to the bill and pushes it further. So a lot of times, this is where we need to get as kids. We need to start getting involved as well as getting involved into legislation. Know who we're electing. Hold them responsible if they're not standing up for this. We're only as good as our representation. Where the hell is Kevin McCarthy at when all this crap's being pushed down? He's over there in D.C. He's not representing anybody here.
Right. Well, look at his voting score. Look at his Liberty score on conservative review. I think it's like 52%.
Right.
So with all the talk, that we get from these politicians, you go look at when they're scored, how they're voting. They're sending a lot more money to Ukraine than they are, to fixing problems here in California or wherever you live. Right. And I think one of the keys is certainly localism and political decentralization. That's kind of a theme of this relatively new podcast that I have. It's so important, right? Because even if you're in the Central Valley, or even if you're in a conservative suburb of Orange County or East County, San Diego, one of these, or Northeast California, Jefferson, even if you're there, well, guess what? There's going to be Bay Area leftists like Senator Scott Wiener or Sacramento politicians like Dr. Pan, who's actually termed out now, thank God. But these leftists from Sacramento or from the coast, they create legislation. And maybe this is what you're referring to. I don't know about the bathroom tampon thing in the boys' restroom. Maybe that could be for all we know, that could be legislation that gets imposed on the whole state as a blanket. Everybody in the state, even if you're inland, if you're in a conservative area, if you're in a conservative suburb,
was passed.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So that comes from legislation?
Yeah,
that tampon thing in the boys' restroom?
It was a gender neutral bill that was put in, and actually a Democrat from, I want to say Bell, California, actually added on to that. First, it was just supposed to be, I think upper grades. No, it was supposed to be just for boys, but it wasn't specific. And she did an amendment to the bill and made it from sixth grade boys all the way to 12th grade. 12th grade in the boys' restrooms. It was just supposed to be girls and gender neutral. Well, the amendment was made that they wanted it in boys' restrooms as well. But we don't see what's all being passed and doing this because nobody gets involved in these things. So when it's done, we're like, what the heck's going on? But it's a little too late,
Well, they passed insane leftist legislation. And then guess what? We all have to jump, say, okay, master, how high? Thousands of schools across the state, middle schools, I guess, now have to put this on their bathroom wall. This ridiculous, asinine mark of insanity, tampons in a boy's restroom. I mean, it's like a joke. Look at how far these people have pushed our society to the left in 10 years. None of us would have believed this conversation a decade ago.
The problem
it's incredible.
though, is that they have this thing where, because we got an opportunity to talk to some people from, Latinos that were in a Spanish speaking congregation only. And when we started, I had gone with another friend. And when we started telling them the different bills that they were going to pass, a lot of these people were like, wait a minute. They were like on Telemundo or even Univision, which is their stations that they watch news on. They were saying they only give us like the kind of like the bare minimum or like the very surfacey part of the bill. They don't tell us everything else that's attached to it. And so that is what the problem is. That is where we have the problem. We need to educate the people so that they know what it is that they're voting for. And they don't. They have no idea. They make it sound so pretty. And then they just kind of, after that, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and pass this. But then they're not realizing that in that bill, it also says, oh, and we're going to put tampons in the boys' restroom, by the way. So it's not just the
Yeah.
equality.
Right.
Yeah. And like
So
paragraph 39 or something way at the bottom of the bill or
Right.
something,
No,
right?
100%. I think
And then
too,
everyone. So all of this really underscores in my mind the importance of local control. I mean, absolutely. We don't need Sacramento or the coastal leftists passing legislation that ends up percolating down and controlling us at every level, you know? And that's also a big problem that I foresee, you know, with government schooling. The problem is we are totally beholden to whatever craziness comes out of Sacramento, hundreds of miles away from many of us, and they have to put it into government schools. And that's a problem right there. Now, coming out of the pandemic, I think it's been great to see so many families, so many parents, you know, getting involved and getting in there and finding out what's actually happening, you know, with their school boards, and people are going and they're making a ruckus when it needs to be, or even about masks, or you know, they're trying to force the, you know, the injections in kids' arms. All of that has really woken parents up, and I think it's been a really positive change that's come, you know. But it reminds you got to be vigilant.
Right.
You got to be vigilant at all times with what's going on in the schools, in the legislature, and whatnot. All of it.
No, 100%. I think if anything, after the 2020 election, we realized, and I remember this. I remember Trump's speech, and I talk about it all the time. And he was like, the swamp is so deep, I couldn't do anything about it. And I was like waiting for him to drop names. And I'm like, tell us, Trump, tell us who it is.
Yeah.
So we can call him out.
Yeah.
But then I realized when he said, hey, the power is in the governor, the power is in your local officials. I sat back and I remember didn't even hear anything else. And I started to think, this is so true. Trump couldn't make DeSantis Trump couldn't make Newsom do anything. Biden can't make DeSantis do anything. Our local sheriffs said no to a lot of these stuff. So where is the power, a lot of it at? We're sitting here looking on a national stage when we really, as a community, need to get together and realize where our power is in numbers, because we can only reach where arm length is at anyways, right? So if you're going to connect with anybody and build, I would say, a army or a coalition or whatever, it's going to be in your community to stand firm on what we believe in, especially when it comes to our children. The majority of everybody can agree. Look, we can agree. Like people say, look, dude, leave the LGBT community alone. We can disagree or whatever. But where everybody always agrees on is this is not a platform that should be held in the classrooms. And like I said, there's a lot of talking points where we need to get out there as conservatives and say, look, I'm not going to sit there and shove this down your throat, but I will say the schools ain't it, right? And you say, yes, okay, well, this is a starting point, right? This is somewhere we can go, we can all agree on. So a lot of times, too, I think we need to pick and choose our battles. I hate when people go, like, look, I'll be 100% honest. I'm not digging this whole, what is it? Let's cancel Balenciaga. Like, who actually thinks Balenciaga is going to get canceled? If I show up right now to a Balenciaga and I say, yeah, this lady that's working there being like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm with you. I just want to get paid. So there's ways to go about it where we actually can get our voice to be heard without doing things that actually, I think after the 20 election, people need to realize that, I hate to say it, but doing these caravans and doing these Trump parades and all this stuff, that ain't getting us nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's not. It may rally the troops, and that's fun, but that's not pushing the needle at all.
Right. It's not.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think some of the most meaningful change, the most meaningful steps toward liberty that we have seen, in my opinion, in the past 3 years has been civil disobedience. When people rise up locally and just say, nope, I'm not doing it anymore. We're done with the masks, or, you know, I'm not injecting my kid with this experimental concoction or whatever it is. When people just say, nope, not doing it, that's where you have power. You don't have power in Washington, D.C. They're not going to help us out. They're not coming. They're not the cavalry, right? Sacramento, they're hundreds of miles away from most of us in this state. The power is with us locally, and the power is saying no.
Hi. Sorry.
Yeah, I think, Lillian, were you going to say oh, no problem. She's plugging in her phone maybe. But there's so much, it's just so important, I think, for people to be involved and to learn that.
I think podcasts like yours, bro.
We resist.
I think podcasts like yours is definitely needed. I like your voice. I like what you're saying, man. It's interesting. I think we need more people out there doing this. I think it's going to go back to what it was in the beginning. A lot of grassroots, a lot of authentic, real people with real voices. not these fake people that are trying to make money off of it. Of course, you need money to keep things going as the bigger you get. But at some point, making sure you still have your ear to the ground and you're still hearing the voice. I think that happens a lot. I think that's what Trump too. I wish sometimes we'd had the Trump of 2016 back a little bit, because I think like anything else, you get into politics and all of a sudden you don't have your ear to the ground. That's why I miss Rush Limbaugh, because what I think one thing I love about Rush is if Rush seen something Trump didn't like said on Saturday, the first thing Rush Limbaugh would say to anybody on Monday would be like, "Hey, check it out, Trump, you're slipping. Call in by Wednesday. These bump stocks or these red flag or whatever it was," and he called in. Trump would change his tune. But what happens is if you don't hold a politician accountable, somewhere along the line they embody the movement, and it's no longer about what you feel, it's everything they say you just have to go along with. And that's what's scary. And I think that's what the founding fathers you were talking about didn't want. These were a lot of politicians that would meet only once a month and had their own lives, right? Whether they were in the army or whatever they were doing, generals or whatnot. But now it's become a full-time job. And of course, now we're seeing the more government programs, the more you need them, the more they stay in power. And people don't realize that we need the opposite of that. We need less government control, right? We need more people to control it. It's like you were saying you were watching that podcast with me and this guy, and I'm like, you say you want less government, but everything you're talking about is putting more power into the government hands. It makes no sense whatsoever to me. But a lot of them don't know how it actually runs. So they're just, it's because it's never actually been implemented anywhere successfully. So it's just wishful thinking for the most part. But yes, it's all local. I believe that for sure.
Yeah. Lillian, were you going to say something? I think maybe you had to plug in your device.
No, I'm good. My dog is just needy. And so she wanted me to play with her.
Okay.
So she was kind of moving things around, and I needed to plug in my phone because it was really low battery. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no sweat. Well, what else can we plug for you guys? I mean, anything else about your organization? We're kind of bumping up against our time here, but what else do you want to tell the audience or tell people about either LEXIT or more of your causes?
If anything, if I could just plug something in there is, we definitely need to build on our team. It is volunteer, so anybody who lives in Kern County, please sign up on our website, which is LEXIT, right? A-Rod, it's what is the website?
Yes, we are LEXIT.com. You could sign up as a member. It's pretty, it's easy. It's kind of, we made it to where it was easy to figure out.
You don't have to be Mexican to sign up. You just have to be passionate. You gotta have a heart for what, what's the truth, stand on the truth of God's word. We definitely, we want people who, just have a heart for it and really want to make a change here in, Kern County and all. And so that's kind of my spill, is that we just need definitely more troops on the ground, so that way we can really push back and really make a difference. I definitely want us to connect with different churches here that are willing to also step up and move with this movement and just get our people educated and on board to what's really going on.
Yeah, awesome.
100%. I feel okay. First, if we are LEXIT, and if you're on Instagram, go to Lillian Lopez LEXIT, and if you're on Instagram as well, you can go to the LEXIT movement on LEXIT Movement One. I help run both of those pages as well. So we're a political group, but we're led by God. God is the center of everything. The best way I could put it is, if you take God out of everything, what do you substitute God or morality with? What somebody feels is fair or not fair. At the end of the day, you don't have to be a Christian or a believer in Christ to know that you have to have some sort of morality to go off of. That's the reason why you don't go 100 miles through a stop sign, because morals will tell you that if you kill somebody, you'll feel bad. There's laws in place, there's morals, there's things in place. And when you take those things out, it's lawlessness, it's ungodliness. So that's why we're led by God first. We feel that kind of digs our feet in the sand. And we look at it like before we're accountable to politicians or spouses, we're accountable to him. That's the way we feel. So we're always going to want to do what's right because outside of everybody else, we feel like he's there. He's watching us, right? We're there. We're first, there to be responsible for him. But we love our country. It's God. It's freedom. You know what I mean? It's all these great things. We want to have conversations with people, even if it's agree to disagree. I think that's an awesome conversation to have. We may not agree on everything. That's okay, right? But we know where there's a line that we can't draw. We're seeing, like, even with this bill that's passed, the same-sex bill, like, I always feel like teach his own. Like, I don't care what's passed. But my problem is the conservative movement isn't looking so conservative more. A lot of these pillars that we used to have are crumbling down. And how come we're the only ones that have to compromise? How come the conservative movement is the only one that has to compromise? And you're looking at the liberals, and you're like, what are they compromising? Not one thing. They're not budging. So, I mean, we can agree to disagree, but we realize that we have to draw a line in the sand. Once you open a Pandora's box, where do you end? And we want to give people a safe haven, a place to come. And we feel like LEXIT's going to take over, bro. We've been praying about it. And we really feel like we are at the right place at the right time with the right movement to do exactly what God wants us to do.
And
well, it's a big movement. Yeah. Yeah. And I think you guys are doing some great work. I've seen you all over the place.
No.
Go ahead, Lillian. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
I think that's, just to tag on with, A-Rod, I think, we need to be more involved. I mean, I think we have this thought of, well, I'll just let somebody else take care of it, or I'll just let somebody else step up and do the plate. They seem to be more of the bold type, but we're in a generation, this season, I mean, even in this time that we're living in right now, it's not for us to be comfortable anymore. We can't afford to be comfortable Christians.
Yep.
We can't be bench warmers. We need to step out and actually live out our faith and walk in that faith, and knowing that, what, God is he's going to guide us when we step into that Jordan River. And it's not until we actually step in there through faith that we will experience him in such a way that allows us to do what we need to do for him. So, I mean, I definitely agree with A-Rod as far as, you don't have to be a Christ follower or Christian to be on LEXIT. You just have to have common sense, good morals, what's right and what's wrong, the difference between the both, and you stand for truth. And that's the type of movement that we want. We just want to make sure that everybody is we're pushing for the right thing. So that's kind of where I stand.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Everyone go out there, follow LEXIT, check them out on Instagram. Remember to follow us on at California Liberty Project on Instagram. Follow the great work that Lillian and A-Rod are doing. And I think you're absolutely right, both of you. The time for autopilot is over. We all need to get involved. We got to step it up. We have to save ourselves. And on that note, I really want to thank you both for giving us the time here tonight. I'd love to do it with you again. Let's get the live session set up. I'll work on that on my new YouTube channel. We could do an Instagram live, but really appreciate your time and keep doing what you're doing in California.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, we'll do this again for sure. Maybe we'll go live on the LEXIT. I'll go live on the LEXIT page, a bigger one, and get
that'd be awesome.
Your page on there, and we'll just kind of do
that would be great. And even take maybe questions
that'd be awesome.
From people. That would be pretty neat to engage with people.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Now that's something this show hasn't done yet. I'd love to branch out and do that with you guys. Have a round table with some questions. That'd be awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, I want to say Merry Christmas and thank you both. And thanks everyone for listening.
All right.
Peace to everyone.
God bless. Take care.
This has been the California Liberty Project podcast. Make sure to subscribe, share it with others, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter.